Okay, so what I want to show you guys today is how to set up a multi-joint chain, or maybe easier to think about it as different rigs for different purposes. And so I've got this really simple scenario set up here. This is the cog or the hips joint, the shoulders joint, then I've got the clavicle, shoulder, elbow, and wrist joint. And I want to create a setup that is similar to what I would use in a game. And so in the game I want to keep my bind skeleton totally separate and independent of the other skeletons. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this top joint, the cog joint, and I'm going to press Control D to duplicate it. Then I can select all these joints. I'm going to go to Modify, Search and Replace Names, and I'm going to tell it to search for joints or joint and replace with bind. I'll pretend this is my bind skeleton, and then I tell it to only replace the selected search and replace names on the selected nodes. Okay, so I replace, and now all these say bind over here. All these say joint. Okay, so every time I duplicate a joint, it renames the duplicate whatever the original name was, and then it tacks on a number on the end. So I want to delete that in the name so that I don't have anything out of the ordinary. Okay, so now I need this skeletal structure to drive this skeletal structure. So it's real simple. All you have to do is select, it's driver driven. You'll need to remember that. Driver and then driven. So these joints are going to drive these joints. So I select the driver, the cog joint, and then the driven, cog bind, and then we go to my constraints. I'm going to parent constrain it. I'm going to uncheck maintain offset because they're duplicates. They should be identical right now. And click apply. Now you'll see it created this parent constraint 1 node. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. Apply. Always selecting the driver and then the driven. Okay, so that's set up now. If I grab this shoulder joint here and rotate it, we're not going to see any difference between those two joint chains because they're both doing the exact same thing. Because I've just told them I've told this shoulder joint here to do exactly what this shoulder joint does. Okay, so now I need to do this again, except this time I only want the arm. I want an FK arm, I want an IK arm, and both of those need to drive the joint arm. Okay, so I'm going to, with the shoulder selected, let me undo my rotation real quick. With the shoulder selected, I'm going to press Control D twice. I'm going to select these top 3 nodes, go to Modify, Search and Replace Names, and tell it to search for, leave it searching for joint, and this first arm will be the IK arm, so I'll just IK. I'm going to click Apply. I'll select the other set of duplicates, and I'll search for joint, replace with FK, replace. Okay, now I need to go and rename these because duplicates always get a number. And I've got my duplicates here. Now you don't need to do this next step. I'm just going to do this for tutorial purposes so it can be more clear what's going on in the hypergraph. But I'm going to grab both of these nodes and unparent them so we can see what's going on easier. Now we always want to make sure we do this in the same order, the same sequence. So these are both going to be drivers, and this is my driven. So I'm going to select FK, then IK, and then the original shoulder joint. And then I'm going to go to my constraint. And I don't need to maintain offset because they're just duplicates. And then I'll click apply. Then FK, IK elbow, elbow joint, apply. Wrist FK, wrist IK, wrist joint, apply. Now they're all being controlled. Now this will be a little bit slightly more interesting. If I am to select this shoulder joint now and rotate it, then here is the regular old underscore joint chain. Now you'll see there's a problem here, right? This, if I drew a straight line, that's how it's controlling it. So I actually need to do this differently. Or what I can do is I can select this shoulder joint, go to my channel box, and I have this this shoulder FK W0 with a set value of 1, and I have this shoulder IK W1 set a value of 1. These are, think of these as weights, just like in your skinning. You have a 0 to 1 value that can be applied to all the different vertices on your smooth skin, on your skin cluster. Well, you can change these also so that that joint will follow just, if I turn one to 0, then it's only going to follow the other one. Okay, so it still doesn't look that great. Well, I need to do that to all of these. So the elbow, set, and now this joint chain, these shoulder, elbow, and wrist are going to follow the IK joint. Now there's a better way to do this. I'm going to undo. When you have multiple joint chains controlling one joint chain, then we should probably use an orient constraint instead. And so we'll do the same thing, except we're going to use an orient constraint. So I'm going to go shoulder FK, shoulder IK, shoulder joint. Constrain, orient, option box, maintain offset is turned off, and apply. Elbow FK, elbow IK, elbow joint, apply. Wrist FK, wrist IK, wrist joint, and I'll add it so it'll close the box. Okay, so now when I rotate the shoulder, you'll see that it doesn't appear to be scaling these joints. They move in a nice arc in between the two joint chains. So I could grab the FK and move it back. So the next step is to create a blend that will allow this joint chain to follow the joint chain that we pick. So either the FK or the IK. So we'll do that on the next tutorial.